So the DC films are moving forwards, and instead of focusing on the main heroes like Batman, Superman, and the Flash, they're focusing more on lesser known characters like Aquaman and Shazam. But my big question is, why aren't they focusing on Batman, Superman, and the Flash? Those three, accompanied with Wonder Woman, are the most iconic characters in the DC universe. They should be the characters that you want to get right first before you start doing your lesser known heroes. And it's pretty clear with the amount of movies they've been announcing, like a Harley Quinn movie, a Joker movie, a Joker origin movie starring Joaquin Phoenix, the Birds of Prey, Deathstroke, Batgirl, Nightwing. They really don't have a plan moving forwards. And so today, I'm gonna make a plan myself. Here's how I would fix the DC cinematic universe. This 4-part series is my pitch on how I would make a set of trilogies for the following characters of The Flash, Superman, Batman, and the Justice League. Now you may be wondering, why aren't you including Wonder Woman? Well, personally, I love the Wonder Woman movie, and since Patty Jenkins is signed on to direct Wonder Woman 84, I think she's in pretty good hands, so I don't really need to plan a trilogy for her. And with all that being said and done, here's how I would make a trilogy for the Scarlet Speeder himself, The Flash. Now, I really do like Ezra Miller's version of The Flash. I really like the costume, although I think it needs to be a little bit more refined, a little less separation in the armor pieces, and have it be fully red, you know? I think Ezra Miller is a fantastic actor, but he hasn't been given enough material to sink his teeth into yet. But to be fair, he has only really been in one movie. I think he's pretty funny and has good comedic timing, although most of the awkward jokes in Justice League was due to poor writing and poor directing. And yes, Ezra Miller does need to fix his running style a little, because I'm not gonna lie, it looks pretty goofy. But I think he's got potential to be a really great Flash moving forwards.
The Flash, the Flash, the Flash runs quickly.
Now I know what you're thinking. You're gonna do Flashpoint this early? And yes, when I heard the rumors that Flashpoint would be the first Flash film, I was quite skeptical. But then I started to think about it, and then I realized, oh wait, Flashpoint is a fantastic idea for a first film. So coming out of Justice League 2017, we now know a few things about this version of Barry Allen. His father was framed for murdering his mother, which obviously cements the idea that the Reverse Flash exists in this universe. Barry's new and inexperienced, and the film ended with Barry working in a low position at the CCPD. So because this version of Barry Allen is so inexperienced, and his father is still in jail, it's pretty clear that he's still in that phase of trying to get justice for his father. So how I would open the film is Barry is doing the normal Flash thing. He's running around saving people, stopping petty crimes. He may stop a few thugs that will eventually turn into the rogues. And then he starts to run faster than he ever has before, only to realize that he's traveled back in time. Now, I think you guys know where I'm going with this. Because Barry is so young and so inexperienced, and he's just realized that he can travel back in time, wouldn't his first instinct be to run back in time and stop his mother from being murdered by the Reverse Flash? Especially, say, if Henry Allen was murdered in prison before Barry could get him cleared of all charges. So now we have a grief-ridden Barry Allen, distraught of the news of the death of his father. He runs back in time to stop the Reverse Flash from murdering his mother. And it's at this point where the Flashpoint paradox begins. This is the section of the film where we basically adapt the Flashpoint storyline from the comic books. Barry wakes up at work, realizing that his mother is alive, and because his mother is alive, he never sought after his mother's murderer. He never became a CSI, and because he never became a CSI, there was no accident in the lab that gave him his powers. And the rest of the movie is basically the adaptation of Flashpoint. Barry goes to find Bruce Wayne, only to realize that it was Bruce Wayne who was gunned down in Crime Alley, not his parents, and that the Batman of this universe is Thomas Wayne. Barry recreates the experiment that gave him his powers. He tries it. He almost dies. He tries it again. His powers come back. We learn about the Amazonian and Atlantean War. We see Barry and Thomas go to find Superman, and the ending is pretty much the same, where the Atlantean War results in a nuclear bomb going off. And whilst the war between the Atlanteans and the Amazonians are breaking out, we get our second appearance of the Reverse Flash. The Reverse Flash appearing earlier in a flashback at the beginning of the film. Now, I know what you might be thinking. Hold on a second, shouldn't you save the Reverse Flash for a third film? And here's why I think we should use the Reverse Flash right now. Because Eobard Thawne is an insane madman in the comics, he relishes at the idea that this is a younger, more inexperienced Barry. He starts telling him things about the future, how he will marry Iris West, how Eobard Thawne would try to murder Iris West, how Barry ends up killing him. He'd tell him all these weird and sadistic things that haven't even happened yet. It establishes a history between the characters, how Eobard Thawne was Barry's biggest fan, and that, being his biggest fan, he went back in time to be the Flash, only to realize that he would become the Flash's biggest enemy. He would reveal to Barry why he killed his mother, and that they would be doing this game for centuries. So this confrontation between the two would be setting up ideas that we would see in later movies. And then Thomas Wayne Batman would stab him or shoot him, whichever one you prefer. And then of course Barry goes back in time and stops himself from saving his mother, fixing the paradox. Now, I think this movie is a good idea simply because you can use it as a reset for the DC cinematic universe. When Barry returns to the alternate present day, we can find out things have changed. You can recast Ben Affleck as Batman if he's not game to do any more Batman movies, although I would prefer he stay. But if he doesn't want to do it anymore, then replace him. You can retcon things a little more, make the universe seem a bit more brighter, a bit more cheerful, a bit more happy, something more akin to the Shazam and Aquaman trailers. And also, this movie is kind of like a Justice League movie, but it's not, as I would have the Justice League characters as a more supporting background, only to appear during Act 2 and the ending of the film. And of course, at the beginning of the film, you'll have Barry interact with Iris West and other Flash characters just to help build the world a little more.
The Flash. The Flash runs quickly.
Now, my plan for the sequel is The Flash vs. the Rogues, and the introduction of Kid Flash. So the movie opens similarly to my version of Flashpoint, i.e., it's the Flash being the Flash. He stops a couple more members of the Rogues, mainly Captain Cold, Heatwave, and the Mirror Master. We catch up on things that have happened between the characters, i.e. Barry and Iris are now in a serious relationship and are now living together, because they were dating in the Flashpoint film and now they're together. So Iris invites her nephew Wally West to come stay with them for a couple days, so she can catch up with Wally and show him around Central City. So at this point in the film, Iris doesn't know Barry is the Flash yet, but by the end of the film she will do. So Barry and Wally hang out together, and they seem to have a pretty good friendship blossoming between the two. So Barry takes Wally to the CCPD and shows him around the crime lab, only for Wally to get struck by lightning and land in the exact same chemicals Barry did to get his powers. So for a good chunk of the film, Wally is stuck in a coma. Meanwhile, at Iron Heights prison, Captain Cold, Heatwave, and the Mirror Master plot revenge against the Flash. Realizing that there are 4 other inmates who have gone up against the Flash in Iron Heights prison, Captain Cold forms the villainous team of the Rogues, which consists of himself, Captain Cold, Heatwave, Mirror Master, Top, the Trickster, Captain Boomerang, and the Weather Wizard. And with that, the 7 of them break out of Iron Heights, realizing that with greater numbers they can defeat the fastest man alive. Now, this is where Barry has to juggle between his life as the Flash and his life as Barry Allen. Iris is freaking out that her nephew Wally is in a coma and he was under her care, and therefore needs some sort of emotional support from Barry. But Barry, who is too busy being the Flash and trying to stop the Rogues, can't afford to give her that attention at the moment, which puts a strain on their relationship. So Barry attempts to take down the 7 Rogues, only to realize that he is way outnumbered and way outmatched and just unprepared for any of this, and therefore flees to fight the battle another day. When Wally awakes from his coma, he realizes that he has super speed. Barry then tells Wally that he is the Flash, as he needs to train him, but makes Wally promise that he won't tell Iris, because Barry will tell her in good time, but he just doesn't feel ready for it yet. And so the two train in private, Barry teaching Wally everything he knows about the Speed Force. However, whilst they're training, Wally gets way too overconfident and thinks he can try and take down the Rogues all by himself. This ends up with a disastrous encounter with the Rogues where Wally ends up seriously injured, and so Barry has to rush home to give Wally medical attention, only for Iris to walk in on them. And this is where Barry reveals to her that he is the Flash. There is some tension between the two, which will be resolved by the end of the film. Barry now feeling bad for Wally's serious injury, he attempts to end this fight with the Rogues once and for all, only for the Rogues to outnumber him and almost kill him. It's also at this moment where Wally and Iris have a heart-to-heart about heroism, and Wally convinces Iris that he needs to be Kid Flash, that he has something to give to the world. She accepts and allows him to go and help Barry. The final fight is Kid Flash and the Flash fighting the Rogues, and it's a pretty awesome sight to see. And so the film ends with the iconic duo of Kid Flash and the Flash working together and becoming the new protectors of Central City.
The Flash, the Flash, the Flash runs quickly.
The third Flash film centers around Wally West. Barry has been missing for months now, and Wally is no longer Kid Flash. He's donned the mantle of the Flash and is protector of Central City. However, he starts seeing these ghostly projections of Barry everywhere, and he's starting to think that he's lost the plot. Wally also has a girlfriend, Linda Park, and he wants something serious, but he feels like he's just not ready for that yet. It's after an encounter with Abracadabra does Wally realize that these ghostly apparitions of Barry aren't his mind playing tricks. It's really Barry calling him from the future, calling for his help. So Wally goes to the smartest person he knows, Bruce Wayne, aka Batman, who is a lot more older in this film and resembles the Dark Knight Returns Batman more than he did in Batman vs Superman. It's with the assistance of Bruce Wayne does Wally realize that Barry is stuck in the future. and they manage to track the frequency waves to the 25th century, i.e. the time frame where Eobard Thawne comes from. Equipped with this knowledge, Wally builds the cosmic treadmill and runs to the future. When he arrives, Wally realizes that the future is a dark and desolate place, and is ruled by the one and only Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash. Wally finds Barry, only to realize that Barry is powering the entire city on a treadmill, unable to stop as the Reverse Flash has strapped a kinetic bomb onto Barry. Using his resourceful thinking, Wally manages to free Barry, and a fight between the Reverse Flash, Barry, and Kid Flash ensues. Barry and Wally manage to subdue the Reverse Flash, but at great cost, as Wally has seriously injured his leg, and is unable to run properly. So Barry, using all of his speed and might, propels him and Wally into the Speed Force, and they start to run back in time, run back to present day. However, Eobard Thawne is hot on their tail. But this is where the interesting thing happens. Because Thawne kidnapped Barry and took him to the future, Barry no longer had his kids, which in turn meant that the Tornado Twins weren't born, and nor was Bart Allen. This disruption of the natural order results in the Black Flash chasing after Thawne. The Black Flash then catches up to Thawne and vibrates his hand and plunges it into his heart, killing the Reverse Flash. With one last final push of strength and determination, Barry manages to thrust him and Wally back into the past, back to where they belong, but at great cost, as Barry was meant to be 35, but suddenly he looks like an 80-year-old man. The amount of effort Barry used to take them back to the past accelerated his aging, and so the film ends with both the depressing and optimistic note. Barry is just too old to be the Flash, and therefore he gives Wally his blessing to continue on the mantle of the Scarlet Speedster. And with this, we've now set up a new trilogy featuring Wally West as the Scarlet Speedster. So yeah, that's my idea for the Flash trilogy. Keep in mind that this isn't fully thought out, and it's just a rough idea for how the film should go. So yeah, join me for part 2 where we take a look at how we will finish off the trilogy that Zack Snyder started. How will we finish the Man of Steel trilogy? Hey, thank you guys for watching. If you liked the video, leave me a comment down below. Like and subscribe and all that good stuff. Hit the notification bell to stay notified. My social media links are down in the description, so if you give them a look and a follow, that'd be real nice. And until we meet again, I'll see you guys next time.